Well, that's just prime.
Hello everyone, welcome to That's Just Prime, a Beast Wars podcast. We're back for episode 12 of the podcast, but today we're not covering an episode of the show. We're going to talk about Masterpiece Beast Wars, which is a very, very cool subject. Ian, how are you today, mate?
Oh, very good, mate. You're really looking forward to this one. The Masterpiece line, the Takara Masterpiece line in particular, has given us a lot of gems as the time has gone on. We're going to start with some of the earlier models and how I think some of the best Masterpiece representation of characters on the market has been with these Beast Wars figures. So, yeah, today we are going to go through the first two releases with Optimus Primal and Cheetor.
Yeah, look, not to bury the lead, but and we've said it before, I really do think that the Takara Masterpiece Beast Wars, we'll call it a subline, it's all part of the Masterpiece line, but subgroup of figures, is the best overall group that they've done in Masterpiece. They're consistent, they match the scales there, the qualities there, they're just brilliant. But as you say, we're going to start off today with Optimus Primal, which was MP32, and MP Cheetor. It sounds like Cheetos,
Cheetos?
but yeah, Cheetos, MP Cheetos, MP34.
Do they actually call him
of course,
Cheetos?
It is Cheetos. TUS.
That's weird. I'd never known that.
Yeah, if you look on the box, it's MP Cheetos. I don't know why.
Why would they do? What copyright could they possibly have for Cheetor?
It's
weird.
just but look, as we know, it's Cheetor. I'm excited to talk about these, and as the listeners have probably noticed, we do a few episodes of the show, and then we'll do an interview or a toy cast or whatever. This time we thought Masterpiece. Let's jump into that because let's face it, it's the best toys in the. Well, at least in our opinion, in the Beast Wars line. And let's have a chat about Optimus Primal, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I completely agree with your point. I've said it time and time again on my own YouTube channel, is that the Takara Beast Wars subline, I think that's a fair way to say it.
Yeah.
They're not trying to keep in line with a Masterpiece Carbot scale. Does it scale with MP44 of Optimus Prime? You know, does it match with the Seekers? You know, they're going their own way. They've got a limited cast to work with. And I like to feel they can take the time to make that connection to the show. And they've done a really, really good job. So starting with Primal, as I hold him in hand, you'll have to take my word for it, but he is there.
Today was the easiest episode prep ever. I just walked over to my cabinet, grabbed him out and sat back down again.
It's a shame you don't get to see us talking about it with us actually holding it up, but take our word for it, it's there. I really, really love this, and I love the fact that the first release was with that kind of toon aesthetic of that soft grey, almost looks like he has fur on him, that kind of crispy charcoal on the go.
I would take this phrase, I think he came up with it, but Jobby the Hong, the reviewer on YouTube, came up with the phrase Roger Rabbit effect, and I think it really is. These are so much, especially in robot mode, because we're not worried about trying to hide things, but in robot mode they are so much just pulled off the screen, particularly these two that we're talking about. As you say, they're very heavily painted, and it's almost like a printing of this fur texture, and for Cheetor or Cheetos, the spots and whatnot, but it's almost pixelated in the way that it's printed onto the plastic. It's so well done.
That's such a good way of saying it, because it's capturing that very early and trepidatious 90s CGI, which was not perfect. It was great at the time, and we'll look at it, I certainly do with Roast Interview. But to get that representation of a figure, not to make it the glossiest Fans Toys-esque painting that's out there, but to say, well, no, but how can we make it look like it was from 1996, 97? And they have captured it to such a point. I will go in on Primals. It probably is an exclusive on the Primal, sadly, with this being the first release. I love the paintness on it. It is prone and known for paint chipping.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Very most minor piece on mine, which is right. And I'll hold up to the webcam so you can see. I've got this tiny little break on his upper half visor. You can just see that kind of dip of
mine. Again, sorry, listeners, you can't see this, but mine has just some tiny little white dots on the front of the shin there, which is probably from rubbing from transformation. But yes, I was just thinking that as you were bringing it up.
We'll just do a plug there that he has got the Cyber Bee on his Primal, which we reviewed in a previous episode of Guerrilla Warfare, which is a nice little cool callback.
And have a look on both of our YouTube channels if you want to see the review of that figure, Lord Ventanagon, or whatever it is, masterpiece.
Yeah, well done.
Scorponok.
Yeah.
So please check out our reviews. We've both done one of that.
Got 2 plugs in them for the price of one. We did well.
Yeah, it's a bargain sale. No, but look, you're very much correct that unfortunately, and Cheetos is the same, because of the print style painting on these, there's a lot of paint on it. They do have a bit of a texture to the plastic as I caress my Primal here, give him a little touch up.
Do you want 5 minutes?
Yeah, we'll take a break, listeners. But no,
we'll be right back.
He was prone to chipping and scratching, and it's the bittersweet catch-22, as many acronyms and phrases or whatever you want to call it, of getting this perfect accuracy, but also it becoming a delicate thing. Now,
yeah,
I say this very aware that I'm in a unique position to own 2 of these and some people can't get one. But I specifically, when this came out and it was a reasonable price, purchased a second Primal because this is literally one of probably 3 of my favorite Transformers on rotation, and I knew I wanted to handle it, but I didn't want to transform it all the time to risk that panel scraping and scratching. So I do have 2 copies for that reason, but like Cheetor, I never transform because I don't want to damage anything.
Yeah, I mean, I've said for a long time, not to bash anyone certainly, but I'm not a fan of having multiple copies. I think you should transform your Transformers. However, if you transform them and they break, well, it's or they chip or they become damaged. That's not a situation anyone wants to be in. So I can understand when you've got things that are a bit nervous to do so. Then I understand why people would have multiple copies. I will say though, talking of the transformation, Primal's transformation, much like the show and much like the original toy, is very straightforward. He is largely the same standing as he is in beast mode. His legs are his legs, his arms are his arms. There's a bit of turning around to do, and the chest of flipping around the gubbins, if you like, of chest detail becoming the beast head. Again, very akin to the toy. It knows where it needs to go. You can kind of work out what it needs to be.
The only real difficulty on Primal's transformation is just getting that backpack and hit the inner shoulder joints pegged in correctly. He does have like a butterfly joint, but the shoulder can also peg in within the body. So it just depends on whether you want to leave that open or not. If you leave it open, the shoulders are ever so slightly kicked forward. It's not overly noticeable. And if you've got it in like a heroic stance, it won't matter. But there is a tiny little tab slot connection in there. And if everything's not perfectly lined up with the backpack, they're incredibly hard to tab in. But otherwise, as you say, pretty straightforward transformation. There's some nice stuff that happens in the legs with panel flips and rotations and all sorts of stuff down there. It's a cool transformation. And we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but the Cybertronian Commander version of this, which is the Japanese Beast Wars animated series, the anime type Beast Wars, is unpainted for the most part. So it's a little bit more fun to handle. You're not worried about the scratching the paint.
Yeah, no, talking about that butterfly joint, that's a good spot. And actually, to really dive into it and go for a deep cut here, that backpack section and the parts that come away for transformation, including that butterfly joint, there's a lot of good engineering there. And we've got to remember, this was Takara's first attempt at a Beast Wars figure. So it's quite easy. Let me rephrase it. I think he says, like he makes toys, I think it's easier to do a standard robot into a car, square to a square. But to get it into a curved gorilla, now, okay, he's not the most rectangular of robots, but they had to be a little bit clever. They had to think about things, going into a mammal. How do you turn into a mammal? I do think Primal is, he's very humanoid looking in his design, or sapien. He is a gorilla, monkey, one of them. I'll get there in the end. But he probably did lend it to it, and it was a good one to start with. But it was uncharted waters for Takara. They did a really good job.
Yeah, look, he still has the very much robot proportions thing of the forearms and calves being opposite to what normal humans or whatever are, where they've got big calves, big forearms. That's quite normal with robots. Like you say, the proportions match up. It's very much that no mass shifting with these type of figures. They go from one mode to the other. They either fold into themselves or fold out of themselves. It's good. There is some neat tricks on this with the transformation too. As you said before, there's some rotations. The backpack is originally tucked in over his shoulder that become the traps of the gorilla and a little butt flap, but that rotates around and becomes his sort of hood section that he has in robot mode. You see in the animation.
Yep.
You know, typically we saw a rat trap holding onto it when they're flying through the air. Rat, not a bat. And
well, which we're led to believe, just to go in on that point, we're led to believe the upcoming MPG masterpiece of Rat Trap is going to be able to attach.
Yep, absolutely. And there is
so cool.
There is, I'm folding it out right now, there is a little 5mm peg on the back of Primal's backpack, which is probably absolutely designed for that.
Because this, we should have.
These guys were so forward planning with these figures. In fact, we're talking about Rat Trap. I'll let you get back to your point in a second. The Generations Thrilling 30 Rat Trap was even designed to interact with this figure a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to mention around the upcoming Rat Trap, but it's the deepest of deep cuts. Now, I've just done a quick check. I should have definitely known this on the front of my eyelids. This guy came out 2016. That sounds plausible.
20th anniversary of Beast Wars it was released for.
There you are. I mean, there you go. Hasbro, Takara, if you want to start doing anniversaries, we've got the 30th coming up. But here we are 10 years later with a masterpiece figure coming out 10 years later that attaches, we are led to believe, to a figure from 10 years before it. That's good, isn't it?
And not only that, this Primal also attaches to Rhinox, and Rat Trap will attach as well for said scenes in the show where they're doing the Rhino ride. We're going to get into this in further episodes, but there's figures that come with stuff that interact with other figures. The line is very solid. We can't emphasize this enough. I honestly believe that whilst like things like the MPG Rat Trap may not have been designed at the time, they had very purposeful forward thinking in, we're going to do at least season 1 cast eventually, if all being equal. So let's try and get as much into these figures that we can, add adapters and stand pieces and things as we go, so we can get that interaction from the show.
I mean, I was talking to Dave Wallace, who helps run the TF Nation convention over here in the UK, who's a big Beast Wars fan, and he made a very good point a little while ago now that it was a real no-brainer from Takara. They can actually achieve doing every member of Beast Wars in the Takara line. You can get the season. We're so close to finishing all the Maximals. There's, what do you say, with Rat Trap coming out, Air Razor to go. So they were never going to finish every single character of Generation 1 if you would start including G1.5, every single one. My God, that takes so long. But a finite amount of characters with Beast Wars, and they picked a great one to start with. It was a no-brainer. It's a shame about the paint chipping, but articulation is good. I think there's some ratchets hiding away in here, some softer ones clicking, but they're there in the right places. Great possibility.
Particularly this first release of MP32. All the joints are solid, as you say. He's got like I'm shaking him right in front of the mic. You barely hear anything from this guy. It's ratcheted hips.
For a 10-year-old figure.
Yeah. And let's talk about features while I remove my Cyber Bee off here.
But you can't do that. He needs the antidote first. Yeah, that's another plug.
Right. So he's got some really... it's not as gimmick-laden as the original toy, but geez, it's getting up there. He's got a light-up head, which is battery in the noggin, a little press down on the head, and the eyes light up. You press it again, you get them blinking. Just a lovely feature, just button cell battery, so nice and easy to install. He's got the pop-out forearm guns. He's got the... show accurate this time cannons on the back that flip out and around, which also double as part of the jetpack. Speaking of the jetpack, they've molded in a flip out thruster section in his little backpack there. And speaking of backpacks, it's show accurate. It's not protruding more than it needs to be. It houses what it needs to. Just I can gush on this figure all day long. He comes with his swords. He didn't come with his mace, but they did release a little accessory thing in a box of bananas later on, if you want the mace. But overall, he's brilliant, and he comes with the face mask too, if you want to swap that out.
So if I remember, he comes with 3 changeable heads for robot mode and 3 changeable for beast mode. So you've got kind of the one I've got at the moment, which is very...
So 3, I'm reading it right now. 3 ape faces, 4 robot faces, 2 cyber blades, and the skull flail as an exclusive.
Yeah. So for the
Plus
version
the
I think
built-in
that the
guns.
release that we're holding on to at the moment, I've got kind of the very calm face and then his angry robot face, and I think he's also got his sort of smirky face because he's a little bit joyous of a
Got
character
the
at this point.
image here. Yeah, so we've got little smirk with one side of the lip up, a sort of smile, the serious face, the standard face, and the full face.
Down face mask.
Yeah,
Which is
he
a very
does
cool
not
looking one
have.
to be.
He does not have the mutant mask, which was an omission on this release, but it did come out on the anime version.
That's probably the only thing you could say that's really missing. Other than that, they've thrown
The
in
flail doesn't bother me.
for this.
And it came out with the Asia release anyway. So
it came up, didn't it? Yeah.
But yeah, the mutant mask was missing, and none of them really have the mutant masks on them. That was more of a Asia release or an exclusive accessory that you get. But hey, that's a lot of bits and pieces that they've given you here, and they're not hard to change out. They just pop on and off, and they're like the gorilla heads particularly are super emotive. The typical face plates for the robot mode are very subtle differences, but they do work. And again, with that light up feature, just look brilliant. So another feature that Primal has, with whether you like it or not, is his robot mode crutch is Sid the Sloth from Ice Age.
Ice Age, that's it. I couldn't remember what it was.
He's got this central blue dot, and to the sides he's got two like bolts on either side of the crutch plate, and then this crescent moon, like upside down semicircle, and like a chin, and it's
once you've seen it, you can't unsee it.
So I'm sure people knew about it for, when Ice Age came out, some people would have picked it up. But this really became a thing when Kingdom came out, and the Kingdom toy really strongly, because the colours weren't as metallic and stuff like that, he had this, Sid the Sloth, John Leguizamo, Sid the Sloth base on his crutch. But yeah, once you've seen it, you can never unsee it. I do my best, but it's there.
We're sorry, listeners, that we've ruined your experience of this
for
video,
some reason, if you didn't know, you do now.
Now you do. Knowing's half the battle, and I bet you wish you didn't.
Yeah, but look, ignoring that unfortunate feature, like we said, he's not quite as... They're different. They're both gimmick-laden, but they're different, the original to the Masterpiece. The Masterpiece's gimmicks are very show-accurate, of course, and then the toy was a toy. One of the only things I'm not even going to say dislike, but is a bummer, he has the floating elbows, Primal does, where the hinge of the elbow is on the front of the joint. So when you bend the arm, he just has a big gap. A more modern Masterpiece probably would have had some sort of molded in filler there, that when you bent the elbow, it would have came out with it. That's very much a nitpick, and it is what it is, but it is something to note.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to remember this is a 10-year-old figure, and a quick comparison to the original toy as well. Like, it's quite night and day when you hold it in hand, because the original toy was nowhere near going for scale. I mean, we started doing classes with the Beast Wars toys, but we didn't try and keep in scale. And you've got to remember, of course, the toy, which the Masterpiece did eventually re-release as well, went for that really deep black and didn't go for that kind of soft grey fur-like, so comparing the original toy to the Masterpiece now couldn't be more different. It's considerably bigger. Playability, and it's great, which of course, we've got to remember, one of the beating chest features, wasn't it, from the original toy?
Yep.
Does come across in this one, doesn't it?
Well, you can do it, yeah. Well, it's manual, obviously, but with the butterfly joints there and the articulation in the arms, you can have him beating the chest if you want. You can get him into a gorilla walk, or you can get him standing like gorillas do. Articulation is brilliant on it. It's not really missing anything. There's no ab crunch. That's probably about the only thing. He's got articulated hands. Thumbs are molded, but the hands do open. Yep, waist, great hips, as you heard just before. Nice knees, ankle tilts, toe bend. Like it's pretty much all there.
I do wonder, could it do with I don't know if a 2.0 re-release. The only thing I've ever wondered is that sometimes the red can look a little bit too deep, not too vibrant, particularly when you look around the hips. It's a very maroon red rather than a popping red.
Yeah, those
I just wonder, could it be brightened up? Hip balls, they are hip balls, aren't they?
But yeah, if for anyone that doesn't know, we'll throw some pictures up of these when we put our posts out, I'd say. But the way the legs are designed, the thigh is like a organic sort of thing that wraps around this red ball of a hip. And as Ian's saying, it's kind of desaturated and dull. It would have been nice to be a bit more vibrant. Like if you took a photo of this and you turned your saturation up like 3 or 4 points, that's where it would sort of need to be. But I definitely agree. It's just that ever so slightly a little bit too dull.
Because Primal isn't, as we've said through the show, he's not the most popping color scheme? Yeah, sure. Color scheme, even. Leave it in, might as well.
Yeah, we'll leave
but
it.
he's not got the most vibrant set of colors on him, not like some of the other characters. So, because he's grey and white, but he's a very muted blue and things like that. So you're looking for the red to be the accents and the pop. And I'm not saying it doesn't do it, but it's not dialed up to 11, as maybe it could be. And I just wonder, I'm still happy with the figure, but if it were ever to be re-released, that could be something that could be just touched up a shade or two.
Yeah, I'd get the blue of the head and those reds and just tweak that saturation just a little bit, and that would be it. Like I wouldn't touch anything else. All the greys are fine, the metallics are fine, but just that red and the head and chest plate, I would just dial up just a little tweak. And when you compare it to Cheetor in their next release, he's very vibrant and almost perfectly accurate color-wise. So they did improve. And again, we're nitpicking. This is absolutely a masterpiece. There's nothing wrong with it, really. But if we could change things, yes, I definitely agree that just turning those colours up a little bit would be nice.
Do you know one thing that I just noticed? I actually noticed it when we were watching and reviewing Guerrilla Warfare, previous episode, third Planet.
Please check that out.
Please do. He's got a really, really big front grille on his head. It goes up.
It does.
It's almost
quite tall, isn't it?
long way. And it came across in the cartoon, so clearly
it's probably as long as his actual face is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just like, it's half your jaw, mate. I mean, who needs a head grill that big? I mean, what's he needing? Like airflow? Is this to like cool his head?
And when you put the faceplate, the face mask grill on, I'd say, no, bugger, I'll leave that in.
Leave that in as well.
When you put the face-plated face on, it does give him that sort of look of a very long head because you've got that grill on the top, and then this, So now, speaking of proportions, I should note that these are not big figures. Some of them are. Masterpiece Megatron is huge. Dinobot is quite large, but they're smaller than you think. And because they are pretty much scaled to each other fairly accurately, they need to be a certain size. Primal is probably about the size of the current 86 Prime. He's probably around there. Have you got that at hand, Ian?
I've got him in vehicle mode, I'm afraid. The commander
but yes, Cheetor is probably pretty close to that. So Primal, it's in my reviews. I can't be bothered checking it, but he's not as big as you might think, but there's so much packed into them. I think there's, as you heard, I'm shaking him again, you're barely hearing anything. Like they're very dense. There's no die cast on these guys either. They're just good quality plastic. Lots of components.
No, I think just going on to Primal size, we do have to remind ourselves that first version of Primal was never big. Like you size them up. Think to that very pilot episode when they're fighting in their beast modes and Megatron in T-Rex mode is like charging at him. All Primal is like wrapped around Megatron's massive Tyrannosaurus head. Okay, a T-Rex is massive, but he's grabbed onto him, and that's pretty much all of Primal as a gorilla round the entire head of a giant lizard. That's the size. He was never big. Even when he swings around for a tail, the size scale is massively different.
And to your point, if you grab Megatron and put that dino head next to Primal, it's bigger than his whole torso. Like it's accurate. Primal was never big. This is why one reason I feel like every time he got kind of reincarnated, for lack of a term, he would get bigger each time to stand up because he always felt like he was going to get a little bit surpassed by, Rhinox was bigger than Primal. He was massive as Transmetal 1. He was huge.
Like he's pretty big, but by the upgrade,
probably the same size as Dinobot at that size. But he's not. He's a gorilla. Gorillas, even though they're big and strong, they're not particularly tall. Like really large gorillas are only sort of people size, just a lot more mass,
Exactly. He's got the power. This is where I feel though they kept it right, and they're not trying to keep it in line with a G1 Prowl or or a Starscream or an Ironhide. You're not going to have that comparison.
I think where the issue probably comes with people not realizing that the reaction would be, oh, they're a lot smaller than I thought. But I think the issue is in people's mind's eye, they have the original Ultra Class toy, which was like another inch or two bigger than this and a lot more mass. And then they've got this and went, oh, this is kind of small, but it's apples and oranges here. They're the same figure, but you can't compare in that sense.
No, you can't. This has gone for show accuracy, and show accuracy, show detailing that doesn't harm the figure, but it's not releasing or re-releasing the old 90s toy. They were two different ages, two different times and different parts of the market that they were going for. This is much more the collector, the masterpiece, whereas the 90s toy was purely about playability and great fun. And you can check out our episode reviewing that figure too as well.
Yeah, no, the 96 toy episode 4, the 96 toy line. Check it out.
It's nice to have a back catalogue that we can do this now.
We're getting there. We're episode 12 now, so I nearly said 13. We're getting there as well. But yeah, look, we can't stress this enough. Look, some people aren't into the Masterpiece line. I get that. It's not always that it's too expensive. Sometimes it's just they're too complex. People don't want to have something they've got to spend an hour, like MP44, you got to spend an hour to transform the stupid thing. Or in Ian's case, MP36, it's never...
The clock is still going on that one.
But
that's probably 10 years, 11 months.
But in general, I understand. Look, we're third party MP guys. We don't mind it. We're happy to sit here for a little bit of time on the couch of a night and sort of watch an MGO review or whatever and try and figure these things out.
Skip back 10 seconds. Skip back 10 seconds. Skip back 10 seconds.
The worst one is when no one in the Western world has got a hold of them yet. You got to watch one in Chinese or Japanese, and they're doing it so rapidly, which is cool for the video.
I don't understand.
Like, skip back. Oh damn! I've skipped back like 10 moves. Yeah, look, we don't mind that, but to my point, I get that people prefer Chug figures or Generations figures from a handling point of view. They're not worried about damage to them, and if they do, it's a $30 figure or a $50 figure, where these, when they were new, were like in the hundreds, and now some of these Beast Wars figures are like $500 plus US. They are very expensive. And I'm not advocating for KOs, but if you want to experience them, there are some all right KOs out there. Primarily good in robot mode. Some of the beast modes are a bit average, but if you really want to experience them and you can't afford to buy the genuine ones, which I absolutely understand, there are some options out there. And hit us up if you want some information. We can find some stuff for you. But I think value for money, especially when these came out, absolutely great. Like, they weren't particularly dear, especially by today's standards. Like, 10 years isn't that long in terms of prices going up for figures. And I think what you got here compared to now is absolute value.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, he's one of the figures I had to get. Really pleased I got him, and he's front and center of my Beast Wars collection with the Takara figures and third party. Yeah,
definitely. I think we've said it before. Primal and Dinobot are like my favorite Transformers in general. We'll do a specific episode on Dinobot, that's for sure. Now, there are some variants of Primal, not as many as you think, considering the original toy and the reissues thereafter have had a million different repaints and lucky draws and exclusives for areas and all sorts of stuff. This figure, as far as I know, unless there's some really obscure Japanese special release that no one knows about, and I even asked Sixo on Twitter about this because he's got the encyclopedia in the brain there. As far as we know, there's only 3 versions of Masterpiece Optimus Primal. Now, they all have different numbers because they're different figures in continuity of the show, but they're all the same mold. So there's MP32, which is the one we've been speaking about, which is the American TV show Beast Wars Optimus Primal. Then they released MP38, which is Convoy Legendary Leader version, which is based on the Beast Wars special Leo Convoy in Imminent Danger. I'm reading that because I couldn't remember it, but it's the one where Primal and what's his name? Leo Convoy. Leo Convoy, however you want to say it, fight this big monster and do Burning Convoy and all that sort of stuff. Speaking of Burning Convoy, the next one is MP38 Plus, which is a red translucent gold, very Iron Man colours, I've been told, every time I post a photo of it. Version of Primal as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the other variants, and MP38, the very much the toy colouring, if you like, or with that black, but very glossy black. It's very,
it's not, but it is.
It pops out more, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's not in the sense of what it was released for, but that design is very much the toy design. solid black, solid greys on the chest and the face without all the texturing detail and stuff. So yeah, very much the toy version, if you want to call it that.
Oh, absolutely. Like the swords are blue as well, and we've got the mutant mask and the face, and I dare I say,
Animes.
it actually looks more vibrant than the release we got here. You know, with the Toon version. I like it. I like it's out there. Yes, I remember having to choose between which version I wanted. I remember seeing it at TF Nation actually, and I did like the kind of glossy black of the toy deco, if you like, or going into Japanese continuity. And I thought, oh, that does look quite nice, but I am a Toon guy. That's how I was first introduced to him. And I would end with what we have, the 32, MP32, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm very pleased with what I've got. Past some minor paint chipping here and there, but he's done me solid for so long. I'm really, really pleased with him.
Yeah, look, I think I love the show so much that MP32 sits a little bit higher for me, but that toy version or the legendary leader version is very nice. Like, I know it's unpainted for the most part, but as you said, those bold colors and that gloss black, it just looks really good. And I have the face-plated face piece on that one. It just looks great. Tap the head with the little light showing up. It looks really cool. I did a couple of photos with all three versions of this recently, and they just look great together. Yeah. And as we said, the MP38 version comes with the mutant mask, which can be slipped over the top of the standard mask. And you can even do the tusk thing like the original figure had. You tilt the ears forward and they poke through a little part in the mask. So it's very cool.
Yeah, very nice.
Now, MP38 Plus, which is essentially all clear plastic. Now, I sat on this for ages because I really...
Hopefully not literally.
No, it wouldn't. That would be the problem we're talking about. I really feared damage for this. Now, not that I intend on playing it. I pretty much took a couple of photos, transformed it, and that's how it will stay for the rest of the time. But there's a couple of things. It was sitting in the box for 6 years, 5 years or whatever. 5 years. That's not good for clear plastic figures to start with. A lot of the time, they're better off just staying there. Second of all, depending on your climate and things like that, clear plastics can get brittle. So, look, it could be a time bomb. It could be all right for the rest of the time. I know Sixo, again, plug for him, has this figure as well, and his is still fine, and he's done photos and transformed it a bunch of times. So look, fingers crossed it stays pretty good. I will say it's not as nice as the other two in general because it's very plain, but it's a bit of a spectacle. It's just different. It's got some, due to the nature of that plastic, because clear plastics tend to be a little bit harder, a little less sort of give in them. Some of the joints are either a little bit tight or a little bit loose, and this is a genuine release. It's not a knockoff, but it's just the nature of that plastic. And the original Burning Convoy was the same. Getting one with perfect joints, even new, was hard. They just weren't always great. So, like the elbow rotation is a little bit loose. One of the arms, sort of the ratchet holds it, but it's not perfect. So, just something to note with that. I wouldn't handle it too much, and I would try not to get it in an environment that's getting very hot or very cold too often, just causing stresses on that plastic. And look, it shouldn't yellow or discolor. It's not going to yellow, it's red, but yellowing in the sense of the broader term. It shouldn't, but again, I wouldn't have it in UV light. It probably would discolor over time being a clear plastic.
Yeah, clear plastic syndrome, much like gold plastic syndrome from before, it is an issue. Like with these things, general rule of thumb, keep your figures out of sunlight if you can as well. It's just, there's some things you do have to be a little bit careful for. And it's a shame because it's a niche figure, and its nicheness is its color scheme and its build, which is going to be its biggest problem. So I can understand why people will keep away from it. It depends which flavor you want your big monkey. How do you want him? Do you want him toon colored? Do you want him toy colored? Or do you want him preferably not breaking?
Yeah. And look, he's rarer, but he's not rare. You can still find it for, you'll pay Beast Wars Masterpiece prices, but it is around. So over time, they will get rarer, and being a clear plastic figure, as more break and more get damaged, the price will go up trying to get the good one. And that's just typical. It happens. Now, as for accessories and whatnot, he comes with the least. He only has 2 swords, which are in gold. He has 2 gorilla faces and 2 extra robot faces. So he has the minimal accessories, whereas the legendary leader version, as we said, has the blue swords, he has a mace, he has the mutant mask, but he only has one of each of the faces to change over. So they've all got sort of slightly differing accessories.
I can imagine that, though. I can imagine that they wanted to limit the production run. There can't be that many of that variant being made versus the original one that you and I both had. They'll know that cartoons will sell more than this niche version in the Japanese market. So they've limited the production copies, I would imagine. As you say, rarer, not impossible, but rarer to find. And as such, they want to limit the printable accessories or makeable accessories that come with it. So it's all just, look, we don't expect this to sell by the bucket load, so we'll throw out some less copies, therefore less accessories with it, and we'll get a bit of sale out of it, but not as the volume of MP32.
Now, I will make a note, and I'm reading this off the wiki, I didn't know it before, but it's important. So in 2021, Hasbro Pulse revealed they were going to do a reissue of MP32, the original mold, and that released in 2022 with some on Pulse, and then other retailers got it a little bit later. Now, it's identical to the original figure, except the box no longer has the 20th anniversary logo. It now has the Long Life logo, which all the current masterpieces have. And apparently it had its shoulder pads could now close fully around the upper arms in 8 mode, which would be interesting to see. So I'd like to get my hands on, even just to see someone else's, that new one, and see how much more they do close down. Not that it bothers me on the normal one. Like, you see a little bit of white underneath, like, big deal. But yeah.
It's not huge, is it?
No, not at all. It also said here, a minor error in the original run. The previous delicate matte paint is now far more durable. So that's interesting too. Maybe they've done a like an ard coat for the Warhammer fans.
Let's appeal to the Warhammer continuity. Otherwise, it'll be heresy. No, I think that's good because they've learned from it, haven't they? Because it's, let's be honest, of all of the Takara releases, he's the only one that's known for paint chipping. There's some that are known for stress marks, but I think the only one who really comes across with paint that's not particularly as durable. So look, teething problems. It was the first time going down the Beast Wars line, and the aesthetic they wanted to get across. So it's good that they reissued that. I wasn't aware that they did with the more durable paint.
No, I was aware of the reissue, but this, reading this is, news to us too. But that's great to hear. So anyone that did happen to pick that copy up in 2022 has got a superior copy in that sense, which is great. So I might try and seek one out at some point if I can find a good price, just to add it to the collection. So I've got all the variants. But look, speaking of paint, our next contender does have a couple of little issues sometimes too. Let's move on to Cheetor, who has wonderful light piping, because my white wiki, TF wiki page is shining right through his eyes. It looks brilliant. Like we always say,
hold them up to light and you get the orange eyes coming through.
Yeah, we always say with Rat Trap and Cheetor on that, they've got that hollow head with the light coming through. And this light piping effect really works. And considering he's only got a tiny little sort of chunk of clear on the back, it's very much like Diaclone Reboot levels of light draw on that.
So I'll say this. I've never been a fan of light piping, really. I like it when it works, but so often, particularly with Transformers, and I imagine with other figures as well, they tend to house a lot of kibble on their back, and Cheetor is no different. I will say, though, whilst he has kibble on his back, the light piping does still work. So there is the nice sort of V or U clearance that allows for the light to get through. But I remember one of the Kang Toys Predacons, I think it was Headstrong, that had light piping, but he had a massive rhino head behind him so he couldn't get any light through.
Blocked it out.
So it's like, well, what's the point of that? And I feel like then when you don't have the light piping, you just get the dead eye look. So I'd much rather have painted version than the light piping effect that sometimes works.
I think with Cheetor, where he wins over Primal's got the light up eyes, so when they're not on, he definitely has dead eyes because they're clear plastic. They don't really have any light to them. With Cheetor, even when it's a little darker, it's still got a little bit of orange there, but you only need a very small amount of light to get them to sort of light up a little bit. So it's sort of a little bit of 6 of one, half of that, dozen of the other. But I do prefer painted eyes for the most part. But when it works well with the light piping.
Now, I'm trying to remember with my Cheetor here, I'm not sure if I've got a KO or not. think I might have done. I bought it secondhand off Facebook group. I wasn't. It was just down to availability, not for any kind of reason as to otherwise. The fact it was there, I could get it. Whilst for quality purposes, I've got no issue whatsoever. It doesn't flop. He doesn't have any problems breakages wise. I do think, and this is hard to say because we're Beast Wars fans, we're Masterpiece fans. We say it's great. I do think this is one of the weaker Takara Beast Wars Masterpiece figures out there, of ones that have come since. In my eyes, I feel it doesn't kind of hit the notes that, say, Primal did before and some figures that have preceded it.
The funny thing about saying that too is it's like saying that this one Ferrari isn't as good as the other Ferrari.
That's still what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's still a very good figure, but compared to your Primal, your Rhinox, it's not quite as good. Now, there are a few things with Cheetor. He is a little bit more fragile in sense of the way some of his joints are. They're on little sort of armatures and stuff. He does get some paint chipping on the metallic golds on the hands. The hands are very thin, with a very small thumb and fingers you've got to be careful with. And the paint on this, we've talked about printing before. Cheetor has like this tampoed on spotting, this pixelated spotting again, all over him. Now, for the most part, it is very durable, but when it does scratch, it is very, very noticeable.
I have got a couple of bits of scrapping on the top of his, what will be his Cheetor front legs going on his back in robot mode. So very top of what would be his very, very tall shoulders. I've got some tiny bit of marking there. I'll quickly go in on that. Again, it might have been Jobby or even Chris McFeely who said this. That low-res spotting, it just is to a T to the cartoon, which I have, which I think it absolutely was intentional by Takara to not just do black dotted, like clear, sharp spots. It's to be, again, 1990s CGI. And it's that low-res, but I can imagine he's walked right off the screen. I'll quickly go on to the couple of things I don't like about it. You mentioned around some of the joints, like the base of the shoulders and how they connect into the body and the torso. Very dainty, and it doesn't take much. It's not necessarily going to break, but like I'm moving his arm and then his shoulder goes inward to his chest, so he gets a little bit off whack, and it just gets a little bit disproportionate. His heels down at his feet are very, I say, loose. They're not the most resilient out there, and the ankle tilt's all wrong. I'm not a fan of his big sleeves on his robot hands that will become the underside of the cheetah in beast mode. But whilst
they're reasonably accurate.
Oh yeah, they are. But it does. I feel it restricts the hands, and the hands are quite dainty, as you say. Plugging in his gut gun, or any gun, he comes with a tail gun as well. It's an absolute nightmare. It's so easy to knock it out. The legs at the back. It's quite unsightly. We're holding up to the camera. He's got this big cross, like skull and crossbones of his cheetah legs, and these big long sticks. They are unsightly, but I get where were they going to go?
To add to your point, it's part of the issue here where we've both got him in robot mode because we don't want to transform him, which is fine. The front half of the cheetah mode is excellently detailed and accurate. The back half cops it a little bit because of the way the legs transform. I'm going to copy a link and send it.
Pneumatic legs, isn't it?
Send it to Ian over there. But because there's no mass shifting here like on the show, the legs can't shrink down and you end up, as you say, with his skull and crossbones on the back, which is unfortunate. Now we obviously eventually we'll get to this in more detail. Tigertron shares a lot of engineering traits here, but also doesn't. But because it's a bigger figure, they could put more into it to hide stuff. And they were able to neaten up the legs a bit more and fold things away a bit more. But Cheetor having to be so svelte and shorter, they achieve a lot for what they're trying to do with such a slim frame. As you say, there's some funny stuff going on with the shoulders. Part of the transformation is the inner shoulder joint is formed through a hinge. That likes to unclick a little bit when you're trying to move the shoulder around. Some of the proportions are a little bit funny with the kibble. The actual robot itself is pretty good though. And again, the beast mode for what they've had to do is pretty nice. Speaking of the beast mode, it's the first figure that I think has whiskers, like actual little nylon whiskers.
It does.
They do get a little bit deformed, unfortunately, by burying them into the body. Now, there's a trend where it's like 50-50 with the Beast Wars. Some have faux heads, some don't. Like, for example, Primal doesn't have a faux head. Cheetor has a faux head. Dinobot has a faux head. Megatron doesn't have a faux head. Speaking of which, those two will be the next episode for the Masterpiece Beast Wars.
Well, I do think, looking at the figures who have their beast heads on their chest, Cheetor started the trend here of faux heads, and I think it's the right way to go. Dinobot had a faux head as well, because you're never going to get that same representation. Megatron doesn't. He wears it on the hand, and that was the Dino head that was on the hand. Rhinox, who came out later, and we'll get to all these figures in due course, his big rhino jaw isn't the bottom part of the beast mode jaw head.
No, because it's so expanded, so they have to...
It's massively wide, isn't it? But I think they did the right thing, because what's there is, if you had the cheetah head, it would be like the original toy was in the 90s. It protrudes much too big, much further, and this was much more slender and in keeping. I will say that for the things that I've listed earlier that I'm not so fond of, talking around the paint, and we've mentioned around chippage, I love that blue. That metallic blue that's on it is very vibrant, very, very nice. And if we had that kind of metallic paint sheen, maybe slightly different hue and colouring for Primal's head, I'd have been very, very happy, because this is a very reflective colour.
Yeah, look, it's a good compromise, because the show accurate smaller head on the chest definitely looks better than having that big chunky toy head on there. And I would rather have the elongated legs on the back and the faux head opposed to the opposite, you know what I mean? So I think they've achieved well there. As I said, the whiskers are a nice touch. The emotive head sculpts for the beast mode are fantastic too. So he comes with
so good.
3 different Cheetor heads, 3 sets of eyes, like you can change the eyes out on him, and 3 robot faces plus 2 guns. So there's a lot of stuff here to get a lot out of this figure. Now, I'm boring. I just have the standard face on the robot, a serious face, because he's got his gut gun in his hand. But you can get some really super emotive stuff here.
The beast mode heads, as you touched on, they just pop on and pop off on a ball joint, if I remember. Yeah. But the expression one, you've got that kind of like he's stopping dead in his tracks with a big gasp. I love the expression that's there. Or you can look angry,
wide eyes,
or you can look sly. Yeah, there's for the beast mode that I'd want to say it suffers. It's very rigid. The front legs are practically sticks, but it does look very expressionate, and it does a fairly good job getting into a very slender character. The robot mode heads, I think it would have been good if for his happy face he had a yellow gap, painted, or a light piping could come through there as well, as you mentioned, that kind of like chasm of energy shooting through. It's only with the eyes. It would have been good if you had the gasping one, if it came through the mouth as well.
They achieve a lot for, again, how slim this figure has to be in both modes. It really suffers for the rear cat legs in beast mode. Otherwise, and then inversely, the front cat legs in robot mode, but that's not so noticeable because it's on the backpack. But in beast mode, it's just that tail end, where again, Tigatron, completely different mold, even though they share things. The size up, I think, allowed them to really neaten that stuff up, because in robot mode, they're essentially the same character model.
Yeah, Tigatron really just lends itself to the mold much more, and there's more they can do with it, but we'll get to that eventually. Quickly talking around gun placement. So he comes with his tail gun, which is his tail, and you could argue it's parts forming because he has to use it, and even though he used that gun the least in the show, it forms his tail, and I can see why they do so. His gut gun can be stored. Yeah, you've got him on the back there, like he's got...
Yeah, I've got the tail gun on his back at the moment. It does mess with the silhouette a little bit, but it can be stored on him.
Yeah, and it's probably the best you can do of it, unless you're not going to put it in his hand. His gut gun does also get stored in a somewhat suggestive position, does it not?
The guns can store on him, which is great, but they also integrate in beast mode. So obviously the tail gun is his tail, which is an articulated tail, forms the back half of his butt and flanks, but the gut gun is a gut gun. It folds up and it pegs in underneath his body and forms part of the body. So ignoring the extra heads, but everything else is integrated into the figure, which is brilliant.
Yeah, it's the best thing you could ask from all the accessories. The transformation, I think, is one of the more fiddlier ones out there. It's one I probably struggle getting into beast mode, and one I don't relish, even if I do like its alt mode. I think its slender frame, it gives it problems and challenges, but when you compare it to Primal in terms of size, Primal set the tone. He couldn't be bigger than Primal, Cheetor this is. So he did set the tone. He had to be slender. He is a cheetah. He was very much the young kid in the first season, so he had to be of a smaller character. I think it gives it problems I think it could do with a reissue, perhaps, maybe a 2.0 if it went down that far. I do like it. I just think it carries a couple of problems due to its size.
Yeah, I think that's really what causes, I'd say, a vast majority of the fairly minimal issues, to be fair. But the majority of the issues are due to size, the way they have to sort of over-engineer things to try and get that accurate character model. Because ultimately, with this subline, we're calling it, the character model is so important to get it accurate and having them scaled to each other. So it just happens that this smaller figure like this that has to do so much in terms of going from man to beast has to have fiddly joints and fiddly engineering steps. It's funny because the original toy is pretty much just cat stand up, which was fairly normal for those sorts of beast transformers. But here, because they're going for so much accuracy, there's a lot of extra steps here. And again, ultimately, it just ends up in just a few little things that are a bit fiddly and not enjoyable to handle.
Yeah, look, I get parts of an animal are going to have to go somewhere, and long cheetah legs are not easy to hide, and you haven't got too much of a benefit of a big Dinobot tail where you can store a sword or things like that. So I understand its challenges. I do think of all of the Takara releases, this is one of the weaker ones out there. I take no pleasure saying that because I'm a
Not at all.
Masterpiece fan, as you are, and a Beast Wars fan. But it just, when I get it, I always feel that little bit shame that it's not as good as I'd like it to be, and it doesn't wow me, say, like Primal did from before. But of course, it's still a popular figure. A lot of people do have it in their collections, and of course, they did go down a variant route with this as well.
Yeah, but before we touch on that, I will say that talking of transformation difficulties, it does a lot of cool stuff in the lower legs. So a lot of panels fold around and clip in together to create a really nice show accurate calf. I'll give them props there, and the beast mode part of the leg folds away. It's nice and hidden on the back. It does have sort of weird ankle tilts that are just the front of the toe, but we'll let it slide because, again, they're not working with a lot down there. But yes, he has a variant, which is MP34S, I believe. Yes, S. It's Shadow Panther, so a black variant of this. Now, I'm a bit dirty on Toys R Us. So Toys R Us, when they sort of collapsed for the most part globally, in Australia, I had pre-ordered this Shadow Panther through Toys R Us. And then they went into liquidation, and guess what? All the pre-orders just ceased to exist, and I couldn't get my copy. So I never got him. So it is one I want to pick up at some point. But yes, black Cheetor, essentially.
So yeah, the black repaint, the black variant, which has been used quite nicely. It's very much a Black Panther in the Ascending comics. I think it was Ascending rather than Gathering. It was supposed to be the reincarnation of Ravage, and they used that Black Panther design, which is the repaint of Cheetor. Now that came much later, of course, than say toy redeco and paint, and okay, the Masterpiece can come out, but it was never portrayed to be the Ravage character. But it makes sense for a mold of a cheetah that can be reused as a panther. But it was a nice little tie-in that it wasn't, this Shadow Panther wasn't just a Nemesis Cheetor or such. They made it the Ravage character that we get in season 3.
Yeah, it's a cool black and silver with little yellow highlights color scheme. Again, black always works well on repaints for Transformers. It's got these very bright, vibrant red eyes, white whiskers, and black, just plain black plastic for the fur color, and it works very well. It's definitely a figure I do like. We're going to get to this episode very soon, but there is an episode where Rhinox goes a little bit bad and his colors turn very similar to this, and it works very well. So it would have been cool to see a Cheetor version in the show like that, but hey, we got the toy, and it's cool. But again, neither of us have it, so it's a bit hard to share our experiences. But for the most part, I think it's identical in terms of the mold. It's just the paint applications are different. It's black plastic with silver highlights.
So yeah, he is great alongside Primal. They scale together really, really well. And as this set goes on, you're just really pleased to see this in the Masterpiece line. He is definitely on the smaller size. He's not much bigger than a Masterpiece Carbot scale. But remember, of course, the Maximals were small, and he's got to be in keeping with Primal, who came before him. So he is a nice one to get. As I say, I think mine is the KO, if I remember rightly. I don't have any particular issues with it. You're holding up is that DX9 side?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Regretting it.
You're holding him up alongside. Yeah, it's not great, that is it? But yeah, so Cheetor does have his his plus points. He also does have things that when we get to Tigatron, you realize they could be maximized, to use the pun, to use the term. I think it could be worked on nicely to upgrade the character. But besides its daintiness and not holding the guns and maybe not having the best transformation, he is a cool looking figure. I like the faux head on the chest. I like the fact that it's got that low res for the spots for the cheeser mode. I think that's a nice touch. It really does capture the tune aesthetic.
Yeah, look, he's very much... I don't even like saying the weakest of the line, but objectively he probably is. But it's just
He's up there, I think.
Yeah, look, Black Arachnia's got some issues as well. But
that's the only other one I'm thinking.
Yeah, but look, they're probably on par with each other for different reasons. But where Cheetor shines is in a group shot with the other Maximals in robot mode. Because then you don't notice any of those little flaws, and they are little flaws that... Again, it's a good figure. We're comparing two good things to each other, not a shit thing and a good thing. But yeah, look, Primal is superior for sure, but they've done well with what they had to achieve with Cheetor. I have to give them props because I couldn't even imagine, again, put our toy creator hats on. I couldn't even imagine how to engineer this thing. With Primal, you kind of get your head through a little bit,
Yeah, when you get the group shot together, as we're seeing with more and more figures coming out, like particularly with Rhinox, who's come out recently, and you're getting that Axelon crew, and it's, any issues you've got fall away very quickly.
I did
a couple of issues, but minor stuff.
I did a shot in the grass of fake grass on some more Warhammer terrain. But I did a shot of Primal, Cheetor, Rhinox, and Dinobot together, and I just love it. It's not even that great of a photo, but like just having them together like that is so good. And I can't wait for more come on, Air Razor after Rat Trap. Look, the next two in the release line were MP41 Dinobot, which is the third release other than repaints, and then Megatron. So our next toy cast episode, we're going to cover those two, and that's going to be a special one because Dinobot, as we've said many times. But yeah, I can't recommend picking these figures up. If you can afford it, I get things are tight these days, and these are expensive figures. But if you are even somewhat interested in Masterpiece figures and Beast Wars, get that Primal. Like, get a version of that Primal. Even if you have to get a knockoff, get a version, handle it, experience it. It's such a cool figure.
Definitely.
That was MP32 Convoy or Optimus Primal and MP34 Cheetahs or Cheetor. It's such, I don't know. I need to find out why they named it that. But they were the first two in the Takara Masterpiece Beast Wars subline of the Masterpiece line. And we've got many more to cover, so be very excited for that. Our next numbered episode will be The Probe, which is Season 1, Episode 11 of the show, and then Victory after that. So we'll get a few more of the show episodes in for you guys, and then we'll get another interview or a toy cast. We'll figure that out as we go. We'll keep this sort of rotation going. Let us know if you enjoyed this sort of episode where we're talking about the toys, because we enjoy it. So I think as much as the show reviews are fun and we have a good laugh at the ridiculousness, ultimately we're toy collectors, so it's very fun to talk about these toys that we have a lot of pride in. As usual, you can find us on Blue Sky, X, Facebook, Instagram, our Linktree, obviously, where we are on primarily, and obviously all the derivatives of Spotify, Podbean, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, all of the above. Please check it out. We have our YouTube premiere every fortnight as well. Comes out a little bit later than the standard episode to give other people a chance to join. Any feedback on those is welcome for times and all that sort of stuff. But it seems to be we're fairly consistent with that release schedule now. And of course, our personal social medias, Chris Carnage _ on pretty much everything. Carnage Creations on YouTube. And I'll pass over to Ian.
Yeah, you'll find me everywhere on YouTube, primarily as ArrowFyre with a Y. I've got to stop saying that, get it on a t-shirt somewhere. But I'll be on Facebook, I'll be on Twitter, I'll be on Instagram, and all various other derivatives. You'll see us as we are sharing our Beast Wars podcast episodes out through our own personal socials as well.
So I will say a very big thank you to everyone. I'm not sure if we had reached this as per the past release, but we have very much cleared 1,000 episode list listens now, not counting any of the YouTube stuff. I think we're actually 11 or 1200 now, to be fair.
1200 now as of recording.
Yeah, and once this releases, that will obviously bump again. So thank you very much. Considering we're really a new podcast still, we've got, this is now our 12th episode. That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that, and it's only going to keep growing. So very, very grateful for everyone's support and feedback. We're loving doing this still, and we've got plenty more to come. There's lots of episodes to come. We're trying to organize other things, so just stay tuned, keep listening, keep throwing the feedback. Listener questions, we want listener questions for the next recording, so please shoot some questions through. Beast Wars related primarily, but Transformers in general, we're fine. Thanks for listening, everyone. Really appreciate you. We'll catch you on the next one. Catch you later.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's just Prime.